Hi, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of our podcast from Cancard. Our episode here, we have Dr. Leon Barron with us, and we also have two Cancard members and medical cannabis patients. We have Jay and Andy with us today on our episode of CANCAST. Welcome. Hello, welcome everybody. How are you all today?
Good morning.
Very good, thanks. Morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to have you with us. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for joining us, agreeing to come on, talk about your use of medical cannabis and everything else that goes with that. And we also have a guest star. Dr. Leon Barron has agreed to join us this morning as well, just to open up the discussion around access for patients. And we're going to speak a little bit more specifically about men's health, men's mental health, and, you know, all the kind of bits in between. We'd really like to open this discussion to everybody and anybody, and make sure that we can create as much support for people suffering with a little bit of mental health or anxiety or whatever way that manifests for them. So I'm really pleased and proud that you guys are going to be joining us today to talk about that. I know it can be quite an emotional place to talk from, so thank you for joining us. I think to start with, it'd be great if we could just do a little round of introductions. No need to introductions from myself. Maybe if we kick off with you, Leon, if you could just give us a little bit of your background, who you are, just in case people don't know and haven't heard of your name within the cannabis space.
Yeah, hi everyone. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me, first of all. So yeah, just try and summarize it if I can. I'm a GP day to day, so still doing a lot of clinical work. I also teach undergraduate medicine at University College London, so I have a role in teaching, and I've been pretty active in the medical cannabis space since 2018, just as the law was changing. I currently chair the Medical Cannabis Clinician Society, which we've managed to build up to over 400 members now. So I think there's about 430 members. Most of the prescribers in the UK are part of our society. So really it's been put together, and its function is to connect doctors together, enable peer support, enable discussions amongst professionals, and more recently we've been opening up to international collaboration as well. So we have academics and expert doctors from overseas who are able to kind of be part of that conversation. So really everything we're doing is hopefully to reduce stigma, to inform doctors that this is a real medicine and a real treatment pathway for some patients, and hopefully just to kind of add credibility and substance to the conversation on my side of the fence, if you like, where I'm sitting. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's you in a little nutshell. Brilliant. Thank you for that. And reducing stigma and credibility is really interesting words, isn't it? Because that's something that we're still battling with, even though the law was changed in 2018. So just jumping across to Andy. How are you this morning, Andy?
I'm okay. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I was just wondering, could you just give us a little intro just to how you found medical cannabis, maybe a little bit about your background of that?
Yeah, happy to do so. And I just want to start by saying thank you for putting all this together, because without CanCard and doctors like the gentleman that's with us now, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are at the moment. So it's people like yourselves that are helping us move forward. And cannabis is helping with mental health issues, and long may it continue. So thank you for that. But my name's Andy. I'm 47 years old. I have some medical conditions that I've had since childhood. I've got I got a type of Tourette's. I've got ADHD. I've got PTSD from certain periods of time. But I have a pretty nasty spine condition where my spinal, I got crumbling bones in my spine, but I have a ruptured disc and two other offset slip discs. So I'm in a bit of a mess. But a few years ago, when I was 45, my back, I had a work incident, and my back went completely, which sent me into a bit of a spiral. I was a pretty successful restaurant manager, and my entire world pretty much flipped upside down. What felt like overnight, but it had been a long time coming. However, I didn't look after myself quite as well as maybe I should have, and I took chances with my body that I shouldn't have, and it gave way. I have a fantastic wife and amazing children who supported me the whole way, but I went to a very dark place, and I ended up racking up some debt because I wrongly kept things from them and tried to carry on and keep them in the should we say that the life they were already accustomed to, and I couldn't maintain that, obviously, which ended up in a mental breakdown, I would call it, and I collapsed quite badly. Now, luckily, I've had several therapists over the years for some of the things that I have, but the last therapist, who incidentally was my last therapist, recommended this. She asked me if I'd tried using cannabis alongside therapy and possibly meditation. The answer was no to all of that. I hadn't. My wife said, "What else have you got to lose?" So I tried it, and it was instant. It was quite literally an instant. I felt like my mind focused. I came into some form of alignment, and I was able to see properly. I was able to think properly. I was able to be rational, and I just moved forward from there. And I'm no longer in therapy. I'm no longer I was taking 23 pharmaceutically prescribed painkillers and different medications a day. That is now 3. And
Wow.
I have no qualms in saying that cannabis has saved my life. That's
Amazing.
period. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, no doubt about that at all.
None whatsoever. The first time I tried it, I just felt like I lined up, and my life has been completely different ever since.
Yeah. I spoke to somebody recently who said something quite similar, in that his brain was so noisy and so chatty. As soon as he uses cannabis, everything just quietens down. It all just comes together, and it's finds like almost like a moment of peace with it. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. It's to liken it in a way that people who don't use cannabis may be able to understand what I mean. I would say it's a little bit like that noise you get in a swimming pool.
Okay.
So it's just all you can hear is sounds, and it's just too many of them, and you can't focus on anything. It's all a bit muffled, and it's like that. As soon as I used cannabis, I was able to focus on what one person was saying at a time.
Yeah.
And myself.
Yeah. And you're nodding, Jay. Is that something that you recognize? Is that a symptom that you also are managing with medical cannabis?
Well, yeah, you just deal with like a lot of things happening around you, and it's like a lot of anxiety that you can feel at some certain times. And I feel like if you have a little smoke or a vape or cannabis, medical cannabis, or any kind of cannabis, it just really just helps me just kind of take the edge off and just kind of be more focused. Right, I need to do this, I need to do that, and just be more in a better place, and just a lot calmer, I would say.
Yeah. And we spoke about this last week, or maybe it was the week before, and you had mentioned that you suffer quite a lot from insomnia. So Jay, I'm talking to you. You suffer quite a lot from insomnia, and having cannabis or using cannabis before you go to bed helps you sleep, which then has this huge, massive positive knock-on effect to everything else. You don't wake up feeling anxious. You don't wake up feeling, So is that what you use it mainly for, or?
Yeah, I mean, I suffer from, I do suffer from chronic back pains, but I've just had an operation in January and I've started to recover from that, and it's been, it's been going good so far. But I do still feel a lot of sciatic nerve tendencies and stuff like that. But I've been dealing with that for the last 20 years, so I've pretty much been medicating for that reason, because I've not had a back operation until now. And but yeah, I realized as well, just with my own like issues through my life, like through depressions and not being where I want to be, and family issues, and not having money, and different circumstances, like weeds just kind of just helped me to mellow me out. And also all these kind of prescription drugs that you take, like they don't really sit well in my stomach, and sometimes it's hard to kind of work out what works best for you. And like it kind of just, I don't know, it's really hard to find what works for you. But basically, yeah, I've just been over my last few years, I've just been traveling the world, and I just found medical cannabis just helps best for me. Just vaping it or smoking it, it's a lot easier to be like what is it, like edibles basically would just send me completely off the edge. There's just like the way it comes into my system, it's just like the consumption or the absorption.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, I'm rambling now.
No, it's I understand what you mean, where you
hard
say
to
you have,
explain.
what's
Sorry.
that, sorry?
Sorry, I was just saying it's a bit hard to explain.
Yeah, I get that. I understand it's difficult to sometimes put into words what it feels like.
Yeah.
And Leon, you said you're a GP, so have you managed a lot of patients through when you were a GP, when you were practicing as a GP, would you recommend medical cannabis for people if they come in and they have symptoms of anxiety or insomnia, or they're just not feeling themselves?
I'll be honest with you, no, not loads. And the reason being is that when I was doing more NHS clinical work, which I've reduced down slightly over the last few months, but when I was doing a lot more of it, the areas that I was working and the people I was looking after, first of all, largely wouldn't be able to afford the private clinics. If it came up in a sort of natural way, I would do. Or if CBD was being discussed, some people, as we know, use over-the-counter CBD.
I think it really just matters on. I agree with you on that. I wouldn't just randomly just because I'm not a doctor. I wouldn't ask I wouldn't say it's for everyone. Each to their own drug. I would just say it's helped me just because I've already had back issues, and I've been used to it.
Yeah.
And now I use it more because I'm more used to it. And if I don't have a good night's sleep, I won't have a good good day, and I won't be productive, and I won't get anything done. So it's just, for me, it's more it's like, it feels like it's a part of my life now, and I'm quite happy with it, and I'm happy to it's like manage it with my own medical needs and whatever. But it's just sorry, I agree with what you're saying. I wouldn't.
No, I get what you're saying. I mean, I think partly to answer your question, the reason being is that, yes, I would happily talk about it to any patient, especially if they brought the subject up to me. But as I'm sure you're all aware, the way the system is set up here with accessing a script, it can be very expensive and quite difficult to get a prescription. Well, it's easier now, I have to say, but a year or two ago, even then, it was quite hard to perhaps get a script. Small number of prescribers. So yes, I would discuss it if I felt like a patient. I mean, I can think of a few people who really had exhausted everything, and it felt wrong not to bring it up. Like Andy's putting his hand up there, but it is true. Like some people, it's very clear that the license pathways and the traditional things that have all been approved and are funded just don't work for some conditions and some people. So this is why I think I would love to see a system where cannabis on prescription is offered, not necessarily as a last resort for patients, because I think for a lot of people it could be used much earlier on in the treatment pathways.
Yeah.
But the law is the law, and we kind of have to work within this, the regulations. So yeah, I mean, it's coming up more often though amongst colleagues, and people over the years have come to me and said, oh, I'm really interested in learning a bit more about it as a doctor, or what do I tell my patients? So I think really the best we can do at the moment across the board, and I mean, I see a sort of a slightly biased cohort of doctors who are really into this, and they're very active prescribers. But if we talk more general terms, I think the best we can ask for at the moment is for doctors to be informed about what options are out there for their patients, whether it's a private clinic or a specialist that might be open to prescribing medical cannabis within their private practice, and even just to know the basics between over-the-counter CBD and then different strains of cannabis and the laws surrounding those things. So, so Andy, sorry, you wanted to say something?
Sorry, yeah, can I just ask one question to you, Sir Doctor? Sir Doctor, sorry. So do you think, in all honesty, that one of the reasons why the NHS doctors are not so keen to have these conversations is because of the conveyor belt of big pharmaceuticals that's being pumped out for financial gain?
No, I don't actually, if I'm honest. I think most GPs are at full capacity. I mean, a lot of them are almost, I'd say, approaching burnout.
Yeah, they're over capacity, yeah.
Taste of what they're doing and the information they're being fed all the time. And I think genuinely, a lot of them are kind of quite set in their ways. They're following protocol and guidelines. And this just feels a little bit too radical, or perhaps something that they don't.
Do you think it's more of an educational training issue?
I think if it was introduced at medical school and postgraduate training, endocannabinoid system and the pharmacology of cannabinoids and how they work and so on, it would be much more widely accepted and be seen as legitimate medicine.
Because I was similar. Sorry to cut you off there, because it was weed. I needed to do some homework on it, so I looked into the endocannabinoid system and the functions that it does with your synapses and starts to. So I looked into that side of things. So how, instead of looking at the side of stoners, if you will, because I rarely get super high or anything like that. I use my level that I need so I can function. But I've forgotten my thought now.
Lost your train of thought.
I have, yeah.
I think that's an important conversation to have, though. You're mentioning that stoner stigma, which I'm still I'm amazed really that's still a thing, that people have that perception, especially with patients, and you're kind of nodding along and you're agreeing with that. So the credibility of it, that was the word that you used earlier, Leon, the credibility within doctors that it's actually a medicine that can work for patients, that's still an issue.
I think a lot of people lots of doctors will know people that are using cannabis, and they don't necessarily associate it with that it might be being used for a medical need or unmet clinical need. They just, I think, to kind of go back a step as well about why this perhaps isn't a priority for a lot of GPs, is they also probably don't want to be told. Some GPs don't want their patients to tell them what's
best for them.
What isn't, because that kind of tips the whole doctor-patient thing on its head somewhat for some old-fashioned doctors, if you like. They see it as an illegal substance that's being sourced illicitly, so they probably want to shy away from it, which I do understand.
Me too.
And they don't really understand how it might interact with other medications, which we're beginning to learn a lot more about. So there's that factor as well. Some of them may have also had experience of dealing with patients who have perhaps seen the downsides of cannabis, the dependency, or they're using very high THC strains for other reasons. So it's quite complicated, and
you've also got to take into consideration the amount of people that would be trying to blag it also.
That's true as well. There are people that might be kind of have an agenda or another reason for doing these, for wanting to get a prescription. So it's complicated. And I think
Yes.
it's important to kind of recognize those points, because if we don't recognize them and accept them and talk about them, we'll never kind of get it
Exactly.
accepted.
Yeah. And so, Andy, you said your therapist recommended cannabis for you.
But my therapist, well, we tried a lot of things, to be honest. We tried, I was at the end of my rope, should we say? No, that's a bad word. I was at the end of my tether. No better. But and she said what she actually said to me was there have been some major advances in the use of medicinal cannabis. Have you thought about it?
Okay.
And I said no, because I hadn't.
And did you then go away and do a little bit of research, and it just was kind of playing on your mind?
She actually gave me a little bit of information and recommended an area for me to go and do some research in. And I did research for 6 months before. I made sure that I knew. I've got kids, so I'm a military background from my younger days, from my childhood days, and so everything is. I have been guilty of seeing everything as black and white for quite some time, and now I see green as well. But
was that a challenge for you? Did you find that challenging to look between the lines and realize that actually not everything is black and white, and it's not always the way you think it is?
Yeah. But it's and then I was like, once I'd one of the hardest parts of getting medicinal cannabis was trying to get my GP to give me my medical records. It got so difficult at one point. I had to threaten them with legal action because it's my right to have access. But because I said why, he refused point blank to give it to me. So I changed doctors. And then I found the box that you could tick to say that you could do that bit on my behalf. So,
and I think that it's interesting that you mentioned that, because we come across patients all the time that are looking for their summary of care records, which is what we need as part of your application.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
So your summary of care, for those who maybe are not sure what that is basically your history of medical, your medical records, and we need them uploaded as part of your profile for your Cancard application, just to ensure that it's a legitimate patient, that you have a legitimate condition that you're managing.
And that's the reason why I joined Cancard.
Really?
Otherwise, I would have just sourced it myself, I think. But the reason I'm doing it the way I'm doing it is because of the service you guys provide. That's why I agreed to be on this podcast. Brilliant. It's because of what you've done that I want to help. To be part of it. That's really great. Yeah. And incidentally, I'm going to be a shareholder in Glow. So excellent. Which is a little
nice. Well
bit of news that went out yesterday. So if you are listening to this podcast and you're curious about your summary of care, and you're maybe hitting a little roadblock with that, you can get your summary of care from your reception team at your doctor's surgery. Should be free of charge. It's very difficult though. I would recommend ticking the box that says you can access it on our behalf, because I tried 3 times and then I ticked that box and then I got my license. So if somebody, my recommendation was, because that caused me quite a bit of anxiety, and I found it an incredibly difficult battle to get through. So if I can suggest that people watching this tick the box that says Cancard can do it for you, and none of that comes your way.
And also read it, because I got my summary of care back and it was not up to date. So
but
make
mine
sure
had
it's all
3
up to date.
allergies that I don't have on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So read your summary of care. Make sure it's your
Yeah.
summary of care, I think, then, that you're getting posted through to you. And did you have the same sort of issues then, Jay, when you were looking for your records? Or
I didn't with my my clinic, because they know me so well. Like, they see me every week, and like through all the illnesses I've had, I won't go into all my illnesses, but they used to see me quite a lot, and I was always asking for naproxen for my back pain, or all these painkillers basically. and the anxiety pills from, you know, all the anxiety I was suffering from. So they knew of all of this. But when I came to them, I think they was quite relaxed, or they had like a bit of a younger mentality of staff behind the counter, and they was pretty happy to give me my summary of care and let me take this route. And I've explained that's the route, and now they're happy that I don't have to, you know, take all these opioids that they were sending me. So
Yeah.
I'm just down to one medicinal drug, which is
Yeah. Which
really
is
happy.
brilliant.
And my family's happier that I'm on it. And that's another, like you pointed out, why I got the CANCARD. Just for the extra protection and to show that, to help with the cause, and yeah, to just show how much it's changed my life
Yeah.
in general. You know, I'm really happy, you know, that I've found what works best for me. You know, and yeah, I can just move on and just get on with my life, and my back's starting
Yeah.
to feel better as well. So seeing
Amazing.
works then as well.
And it would be, and it's so nice to hear that, though. You've said that a few times, that you're getting on with your life now. So it's not
Yeah,
this huge thing where, you know, you're a cannabis user, and you don't have to wear that as a label.
exactly.
You know, it's
I don't
not.
like the word user though either.
You don't like the
Yeah,
word user, okay?
No, I don't, and I don't like it when they call it a
mm,
drug either.
Okay.
yeah, exactly. It's just
It's a
it's
plant.
just like paracetamol, medicines, you know, it shouldn't even be like seen as like alcohol. You know, people go, oh, well, we've got alcohol. It shouldn't be like that.
It's weird.
And
It's alcohol's worse though, isn't it?
yeah, alcohol is a huge poison that we're putting into the body. It's totally different. This is a cannabinoid. We've only got like 3 receptors or something like that in our bodies, and one of these key receptors works with CBD. So why would we have these receptors if we're not going to use them?
Exactly.
Right?
They're
So,
God-given.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which brings us sort of back round to the endocannabinoid system, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
the
exactly.
part maybe that needs to be, you know, we need a little bit more education around that.
Yeah.
Maybe I think if people had that realization of that kind of additional nervous system that we have within our bodies that naturally has that
Yeah.
that connection to the plant.
Because
And
I would love it to help people like my mum, for example,
Mm.
but then the stigma around it, she's still like, oh, weed, you know, I wouldn't ever
Yeah.
touch that. But CBD would be life-changing for so many people, or just weed in general. Just the benefits of the terpenes and the flavors. Oh, it's just, I really wish, yeah, the more we can help and legalize it or get it out there in pharmaceutical stores, we can just like, and be, you know, with the doctors like yourself, just being more knowledgeable and passing on information, we can just have a better future, I think, for everyone, and a more relaxed and calming future for everyone.
yeah.
That's my
And
opinion.
do you think access on the NHS is a kind of genuine place that we're going to head towards, Leon? Do you think that's a space that eventually we'll ever have within the UK?
Yeah, I think ultimately we will. It's going to take awfully long time. I just don't have the answers. I mean, could be a decade off. I think they're good. I've always said, my view again, a positive step forward would be to allow GPs to initiate scripts. I think we see a large uptake of, albeit private GPs, starting to take on patients and oversee the treatments. And I think just through sheer economies of scale, that will hopefully bring prices down, make it much more talked about, more accessible. You could be seeing someone that knows your background, your history, and your family. They've looked after you for a number of years. So I think that small change in the law would really help to accelerate access, to help reduce stigma, help just broaden kind of the range of people that are accessing it or using it. So, and if that were to happen, I think we would then, the data would start to really kind of, the regulators would really start to look at what's going on in terms of reducing dependence on other medicines or improve quality of life, getting people back to work. So, you know, luckily we can look across the globe at other countries that are doing similar things, and we can actually learn from what they're doing. So as we know, Germany is very advanced in GPs prescribing, access is much easier. same in North America and Canada and other places. So so yeah, I mean, I think it probably will end up in some form being prescribed through the NHS and funded for, but whether it's for chronic pain or I don't know, you know, it's the studies just aren't happening at the moment at the kind of scale they need to
I don't
be.
think that's the answer, though, myself personally.
No?
No, I think you're. The only thing that you said there that I slightly disagree with is possibly the timescale. I think it might even be longer than a decade. I think what's needed isn't the fact that it could become available on the NHS. And again, this is just my personal opinion. My opinion is that medical licensed cannabis patients, instead of having to go to a private clinic or to a GP or anywhere else to get it, I think we should just be allowed to grow our own. I think I can brew my own cider, but I can't grow my own weed. It's not, that's not acceptable. I think that's where the law needs to change. And I think you do need to be a medical license holder to do that. And I also think that the limit, there should be obviously legalities that we would then have to follow. And I think 3 plants in flower at one time at all would be sufficient to have a perpetual grow for every single medical cannabis user to be able to be self-reliant. I think any more than 3 plants in flower, you then breach into what I would deem you don't need that much. And then that's intent to supply as far as I'm concerned. But I think that moving forward, what I would be campaigning for, because I am in the process of becoming a cannabis campaigner, and that is where I will be focusing my agenda.
Fair point, Andy. Yeah, I get it.
But everything you say is also true, and I think, and I commend you for everything. But that's just what I would like to see.
But go on, Victoria.
I think there's a little split in the community between grow your own and just, you know, if you have a florist,
you should at least be allowed.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and Cancard, we like the team at Cancard are huge advocates for grow your own. We're huge advocates for any kind of access, basically, really any way that you want to access your medicine, you should be allowed to do so. Excuse me. So I agree with you. I think that's an option that should be explored. I think if you want to be able to grow a few plants at home, you should be allowed to do that. Where we'll see the change in legislation around that in the UK, I don't know. When I first came into the cannabis space back in 2017, I think it was, and then the law was changed in 2018. And I thought at that point that was going to be a turning point.
But they've just made it. They've just allowed it now in Germany, haven't they? So you can now grow 3 plants in your house, up to 3 plants in flower in Germany. And I think that's what needs to spread. I do think the NHS need to get on board. He's quite right, but like the doctor said, it's the timescales. They're going to be too far away.
And Jay, would you consider growing your own? Would you consider growing your own plants if you were allowed to? Would that be something that you would be interested in?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. 100%. That's exactly what I would do. It's just the fact that it's illegal to do. I wouldn't do something like that. And if I could, I would have done it yesterday. You know, it's just because you know what strain works for you. You've learned all the ways of the best grows or the best kind of nutrients to give and the flushes and to really give your plant the best. And you don't need like a high kind of like facility to really do it. If you're focusing on your own grow, your personal grows, they are the best grows. Like small grows are really the best grows, I would say. But like, it's just having something consistent, and you're not having to go look for it or spend ridiculous amounts of money, to get it, or pay a prescription every month and
I agree.
have to sign up. It's just so much. When we're all adults, we should be able to look after ourselves.
I make my own cider in my shed.
Exactly.
But I'm not allowed to grow a plant.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And the reason is because and the fact that it's already designed naturally from Mother Nature to connect with us in a
Yeah.
way that's healing. So why is that
Exactly.
being held back from us, is my question.
I accept that there are a lot of particularly existing cannabis, people that are using cannabis for medicinal reasons, or that I deem often some patients as experts really in what they're doing. And I accept that there's a number that just don't really want to see it put in a medical box. I totally get that, and
So do I.
I've got no issues with that at all. I think when you start to then compare it to other treatment, like if we're going to try and say, okay, well, let's consider cannabis instead of an SSRI or instead of CBT or alongside some of these licensed pathways, then we kind of have to then consider what's needed to put it into that space.
Well, the infrastructure.
Yeah, and also the fact that there are, I mean, Jay kind of mentioned his mum earlier. There are people that are older, or they're a different demographic that feel much happier, like if their doctor's going to put it on a prescription, say, look, this comes from a facility, it's made in this way, it's an oil or a capsule. I'm going to give you this number, this is the dosing. So, and that market and that population is huge. Like we're talking about people in their old age who are suffering with osteoarthritis, or
I mean, I'm not recommending they do a grow, but
well, exactly, or they just wouldn't be able they wouldn't be able to, they wouldn't understand it. So
but the other thing is I'm allowed to grow turkey tail mushroom, I'm allowed to grow lion's mane mushroom, which have got tremendous benefits for Alzheimer's and what's the other one with the dementia. Do you know what I mean? But it should be thought of in the same category as those, I believe.
We have to think about cannabis as a sort of spectrum, and where how it can be, in what form is it made, where is it made, in what form, how is it prescribed, or how is it kind of
but it turns out for myself, I can only administer cannabis in one of two or three ways, like Jay said earlier, the edible side of things, they don't sit well with me at all. I only get the relief from doing it from flower, either through the dry herb, or if it's severe, I use the bong. So, but
I think that's why it's quite an important element to be able to have patients at the front of this.
Administering it in different ways has different effects on your body and your mind. So going back to the mental health issue, I made some cookies out of mine, and it made my mental health worse.
Okay.
So it also, this is where the education of it and like the doctor said, it's going to take time for all of these things to go through and everything. But I think the rules need to be in place. They do. I'm not saying let's abolish rules. I'm saying the rules are good, but they need to be sound.
And when you started exploring cannabis, and you were realizing that it was having a really positive effect on your mental health, is that a conversation that you had with family and friends?
Absolutely.
Is that something you discuss with other people?
100%, all of the way. My wife has been there with me every single step of the way.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have done any of this without it. Well, I wouldn't be here without it, but yeah.
And you're nodding, Jay, is that something you found as well, that you've had support through the process?
Yeah. I've
Not
got
from everybody though.
Potential wife to be, get married soon, and she can just see how much it's really supported my life and the stresses and anxieties I do go through, and it just helps me just calm down and just get back to life, just get back to what I'm doing and focus, be more focused.
And do you think it helps you? Do you think it helps you talk about it more? Do you think you find you're way more open with it when your levels of anxiety are a little lower? You feel a bit more like yourself. You're a bit more open to talking about how you feel.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, definitely. I feel more relaxed because I'm just happy. I just feel a lot more relaxed.
I wouldn't talk about it before.
You would never talk about it before?
No.
Oh yeah.
And do you think? I think that's quite a common thing for men, maybe, to not talk about their mental health. I mean, I think it's improving as we go, but as a sort of generalization, maybe for
I
me
can,
as a woman,
I,
to say that men
I
don't
would
talk
say
to
the
each other.
actual, I would say the actual weed community has helped me among like amazingly, like with that just coming out and with my anxiety, just knowing there's others out there who feel the same and have the same issues, and we're not alone in this
We're not alone.
struggle, and we've all got the same kind of issues, and it's just we need our own kind of therapy, and the only way we're going to get our therapy is if we meet others like ourselves, and to talk to about this, and who knows what we're going through, the stresses and struggles, and it is mainly because of the stigma around it.
Yeah.
So,
That's
mm,
that's been the hardest part for me, and then I agree, and it's the I mean, I don't administer my medication in public either. I did at the festival, but I went to a festival like that. So I medicate and then I go out. I don't medicate whilst out. I don't see the need to, and I think that people need to understand, especially people who are on medical cannabis like you and I'm not sure if everybody's aware of the rules, because a couple of the things I've seen people kicking off, and because they're smoking a joint, and they say we're not allowed to smoke a joint in public. We're allowed to vape in public. That's it.
yeah, exactly.
And I don't think medical cannabis users. So I don't think that everybody is aware of what we are actually allowed and not allowed to do. I think some people think that they've got a license, they can do what they like, and we're not allowed to do
exactly.
that.
Yeah. And if you have a prescription from a cannabis clinic, you need to be using a vape with
Exactly, that's what I mean. Yeah. But I've been to a couple of things now where there are similar people like myself, and I've gone, you can't do that, and they've gone, what are you on about? And we're not allowed to do that. If the police, because they go, if the police come, we've all got these, and we've got a Cancard license. It says yes, but you're doing it wrong. We're not allowed. So one of the things I'm trying to spread awareness on my TikTok channel and stuff like that is the fact that, don't forget, we have rules as well. It's not a case of we're licensed and we can go out there and smoke weed. It's that we have rules, and I think we need to be careful in our approach when discussing what we can and can't do, and the fact that we've got a license when we are talking to authorities, because the education and the training that they've had is not sufficient. So we have to remain calm and be able to speak to them in a way that doesn't rub them up the wrong way. We've got to be a little bit respectful, in my opinion.
Yeah, so maybe there's education required on both sides of the coin as well.
But if we don't just talk to each other normally, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
It's just out of respect. You wouldn't smoke a cigarette in front of a family or a baby. You wouldn't vape in front of them. So you do it out of respect. You do it to the sides. But yeah, the stigma just needs to change still.
It does, yeah, because we get tarred with a brush that's not right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully one day we'll move towards, we'll move towards a space where medical cannabis is maybe a little bit more accepted. It's maybe a little bit more understood.
Well, one of the things that I'm in the process of doing at the minute is I'm about to possibly open up a shop.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with there's a man called N.I. Canagai over in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, we know him quite well. Yeah.
Vape Lounge. Yeah, I'm currently putting a plan together to open one.
Okay, brilliant.
Oh, brilliant.
And I will have a designated area in the shop that people will be able to come in and apply for the Cancard license and the medical marijuana license.
Well, keep us posted on that one. Well done with that, Andy. Let us know how you get on.
I will. Yeah.
But just coming around to the end of the podcast here, the end of this episode, thank you so much for all of you for joining us today. Thank you so much for your input and being so open about your cannabis use, where it came from, how you feel about it at this point, and hopefully where we take it in the future.
Yeah, mental health only gets better if you talk about it.
Mental health only gets better if you talk about it. That's it, exactly. Thank you so much, all of you, Leon, Andy, and Jay. This episode will be available on Spotify and also on Amazon Music. Look out for the links on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter profiles. We're also on TikTok now as well. Follow us there. And thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch up with you all again soon.
Yeah.